Islam. This is Brother P. Miles L. Just getting in, setting up. We just finna take a dive around the world. And all praises due to Allah, the Father of the universe, and honors to his prophets, honors to Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD, for the uplifting of fallen humanity amongst the Asiatic nations of North America and all nations and all lands, to teach the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These times and days were prophesied by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And here we are. We are in the great and lawful day, which was sure to come. And also, we want to give honors to Brother Marcus Garvey, the forerunner to the Prophet, and honors to all of the past and current leadership of the Moorish Divine International Movement all over the world. I want to give honors to all nations that's moving with respect to peace and security and uplifting and unity. And so honors to all things pertaining to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And honors to all divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. But welcome to GSOT13 Global Watch on this April the 2nd, 2022, according to the Gregorian calendar. And some say this is the second day of the year, going into spring, or the new year, should I say. And so we're ecstatic, we're excited. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for visiting us. Make sure you go to www.msta13gov.com. Support us, subscribe there. Be a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Temple number 13. We have a lot of positive industrious acts, especially for self-development, character development, economic development, social development, educational development, which is obviously the essence of everything that we do. In accordance with Act 6, we are to teach our people their nationality and their divine creed, so they may know that they are part and parcel of this here government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians. These names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. This is a new era in time now, and all men now must proclaim a free national name to be recognized within the government that they live and the nations of the earth. And this was the reason why Allah ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans, who we are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And so this is an opportunity for us to continue to build upon these things that was brought to us back in 1913. That has a critical component to all of the global activities on the planet Earth, being aboriginal and indigenous to the planet Earth. And so we are stakeholders, and we are essential to the ability to unite, what they call the Great Reunification, and ability to maintain peace on the planet. And so the reason why things are out of control now, based on the Moorish angle, is because we're not in the game, consciously, subconsciously, economically, politically, religiously. And we're not talking about pseudo-religion. We're not talking about what we've have been taught to be religion. You know, we look at religion, cut on the TV, look at the news, look at the United Nations, look at the Security Council, look at other nations' leadership. That's religion. Okay, they got their prime ministers, their sheiks, their rabbis, their imams. They sit at the table and they discuss resources. They discuss business that enhance and advance a nation's economic capacity to take care of themselves, to be self-sufficiency, to be sustainable, to be viable, technologically viable, to have that infrastructure in place that allows what they call peace and security. And so that's what religion actually is. It's political. And it has everything to do with your rights to maintain the systems, maintain the cultural practices, maintain the rights of self-identity, sovereignty, military might, to be able to take care of yourself like you would do any other individual household, right? To be upright, independent. And so that's religion. That's religion, that's politics, and that's the policy of the planet Earth. And so the way that we've been taught, or religion is taught here in the United States, is more Sunday Baptist church, more like almost, it doesn't connect you. It's, should I say, there's a missing ingredient when it comes to how we're taught politics over in the States, or within the States, within the what they call the United States, in the public school systems, or wherever it be within the community. And so we don't understand the connection to political, economic, social, educational, technological components that's attached to and connected with religion. And so when you look at the United Nations, for example, when you look at other parliaments and legislators around the world, these are ministers, these are prime ministers. When you look at the education or the history of the United States and its founding, Thomas Jefferson, allegedly, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, all these guys were ministers, plenipotentiaries of the Sultan of Morocco, representing the United States and the treaty relations and the drafting of the treaties and the negotiations of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the Empire of Morocco, i.e. the Moroccan Empire, which is us. And so, so the way that we get religion over here is actually misrepresented, and it's in a pseudo fashion, and it's not actually have anything to do with the uplifting of your nation, the actual solving of problems, the actual advancement of your family, the viability, the sustainability, all of these components that you need to be prosperous in any form and fashion of the term being used. And so this is important. So we have to kind of, first and foremost, look at the truth for what it is and don't expect anything other than the truth. And the truth of the matter is we've been dumbed down, the American public, especially in what they call urban communities, where you have Asiatics and you have the different nationalities in a more disadvantaged capacity. I mean, they have lack of resources to actually sustain themselves in accordance with law. For example, you see the city of Pontiac failing schools over the last 20 years, high crimes over the last 20 years, high death from violent crimes over the last 20 years. Juvenile delinquency is at its all-time high. Even in cases where you got my son, he's out being a juvenile delinquency. My oldest son, he's caught out there in that web. We're doing our best to mitigate this situation, but they get access to these pills. They're laced with fentanyl, and we know what's happening at the border with historic numbers of drugs from the cartels being pushed through the borders, taking full advantage of the border crisis. So as a parent and as a leader, first and foremost, as a parent, I'm highly disturbed in a lot of different ways. One, emotionally, because it's my son, and being via that he's brought up in a Moorish Muslim household. He's fully conscious of the difference between right and wrong, but he's subjected himself to that peer pressure. So these children that he's hanging around or have hung around for a period of time, and not just the children, probably some grown-ups too, he got access to this awareness or some form of awareness where this is okay. My friends are doing this. This is what they're doing. I want to fit in. They call it peer pressure. And that's what it is. And so these children are getting access to things that they're not able to get access to at home. And so, and then they go into the experimental capacity because Jimmy's doing it, Tim doing it, and Susan's doing it. And these are my so-called friends. And so now I want to fit in. I don't want to be a guy that's a leader saying, hey, and being a leader is tough today. You know, being a leader is almost like an alien term. And it's like, nah, why be a leader and I can just join a group? I can just do what everybody else is doing. And so we're losing a great battle out in the field currently with our children and their psychological capacity to understand literally right from wrong and to defend themselves mentally with their mental, meaning that they need to make better decisions against what everybody else is doing, right? So it doesn't matter if everybody's jumping off a bridge. I need to analyze this for myself and see if in fact that this is the route that I want to go. Do I want to jump off a bridge and kill myself, or do I want to change courses here, make a better decision, make a more informed decision, even if this is not something that everybody's doing, right? And that's what's great about having a father like me, is that I'm Moorish American Muslim and a national. And I'm in a community where it's millions of, hundreds of Christians, believers, Christians, and Black Christians at that. And so politically, I don't fit in because I'm not Black. I won't wear the tag of being Black. I'm not being branded Black. Those names were given to slaves. And according to the etymology of the term, it's a Germanic word which defers or deludes to slave, and it means pale. Has nothing to do with me being a Moorish American Muslim. I'm Moroccan, and so and then I'm Muslim, and so I don't fit into the politics of on all fronts. So you're a Black Christian, you're fine. You Black Muslim, you fine, but don't have a nationality. Put the nationality out front, and don't have a name of your forefathers. You just don't fit in to the political ideology and the pseudo political ideologies that exist within this community. And that's why you see mass murders going on day by day. You got little girls getting shot in the head from drive-by shootings. You got young men getting shot in the head. You got people dying from all kinds of health diseases, health issues, health conflicts, left and right on a daily basis. I was just telling one of my brothers that every time I get an email, I don't get the email about, somebody got shot and died, but more so I get the emails that such and such had health conditions and they gone. They had some kind of health conditions and they gone. And so what does this tell me? That we getting beat up, that the pseudo religious systems that's in place is killing you. The pseudo de facto food systems that's in place is killing you. You're being poisoned not only from your mental and your spiritual, but in your physical. And so the physical is being poisoned with bad information first and foremost. And so one of the ways that, not one of the way to address that issue is through education. The knowledge of who you are and your divine origin, what we call your nationality, birthrights, and divine creed. This opens you up to the biological, genetic, chemical makeup of who you are. Your personalities, how did that form? All of these things will take you all the way back into mother and then beyond, and then bringing you forward. So it's almost like traveling back in time. You gotta be a time traveler. And that's what you are, and time is, as we know, is a construct, a human construct. And so what we can do is with, for example, our ancestors left everything documented for us. So when we conduct the investigation and do our research, we're able to travel back in time unhindered, and we're able to see and know and answer a lot of questions in the present. And this allows us to prepare for the future. So if whether it's an alleged pandemic or it's an alleged whatever the case may be, we're prepared. We have in place an emergency preparedness plan. We have in place all of the things that we need to not only survive, but to be viable, to be vibrant, to be lucrative, to take advantage, to advance ourselves through any circumstance or conflict, dealing whether it's an economic situation, a social situation, or whatever the case may be. It allows us to understand that we are the masters of our destiny. We're the creators of heaven and hell, and heaven and hell is a state of mind. And so it's things that we have been given power and authority to take the lead and lead the world in the direction that it needs to go in. And that's our responsibility. And that's why it's so important to ensure that, we have our infrastructure in place to get the media out, to get this information out, to do other things in regards to communication, effective communications, not only to our members, but to the families of the world, right? Say, hey, what are we doing being the consumers, but not being in a position to where we're producing, manufacturing, and sustaining ourselves, and not being dependent on adversaries, not being dependent in any form and fashion. We have the greatest land on earth. It extends from northeast of Africa to southwest, coming across the Atlantic Ocean onto the present north, south of Central Americas, Mexico, the adjoining islands, and even going into Europe. We're the ancient civilizations of the continent of Asia, the continent of Europe, etc. These things are well known around the world. This, once again, going back to the beginning, this is the reason why it's a lot of mayhem going on the planet, and a lot of dysfunctionality, a lot of imbalances, because we refuse, number one, to educate ourselves about ourselves. Two, in that education about ourselves, take action, to take a political action, a lawful action, a social action, an intelligent action, which starts the process of not only healing from centuries and centuries of trauma, but also healing the planet from this great trauma, and putting the planet in a better capacity to do what it's supposed to do, right? To heal itself, to produce cleaner waters, produce cleaner air. Then our job is to protect the planet. Our job, and I'm not in reference to climate control, because the climate control comes from us understanding ourselves and how we're connected to Mother Nature, and we're not disconnected. That's just a mental thing. But in actuality, whatever happens to nature happens to us. Whatever happens to us happens to it's happening to the planet, because we're one and the same. We're not disconnected in no way, shape, or form. The same ingredients it takes to make up the planet Earth, it's the same ingredients that it takes to make up the human body. And that's just a fact of the matter. And so that's why, when you eat from the planet through that connection, that your body it does things that you never knew it can do. It heals itself at a scary capacity, because you didn't know that. It is also advances itself. It gets stronger. The brain and all the other vital organs are stronger. The body, the blood is cleaner. And this is all from the connection, the divine connection between Mother Nature, i.e. the planet Earth, and then consuming the things that Mother Nature has supplied, or should I say has prescribed for you. And so therefore, you're reversing the effects of dying. You're reversing the effects of all this artificial GMOs and artificial everything. It starts to move away from that artificial capacity, because you are you are a technology. You are software. You're a digital code that is phenomenal. You're the original. You're the original technology. If I was to put it into that capacity. So, but once you learn yourself and learn the amazing things that this technology offers, all of its awesome features, then you will come to the same conclusion, and you understand why it's so important that you educate yourself around the subject matter. I mean, you do it in a way you know, like in Godspeed, as they would say, you know, you hurry up and get to this education because it's very important. It determines everything. It determines the outcomes, the incomes. It determines where we stand at on a national stage. And so that was just my few minutes. I want to speak to the people and speak to the audience and tell you guys thank you. Make sure you visit me at voteprince.org. We're still preparing to represent the people at the county legislative level. More than likely, I'll be getting on as a write-in, but that's okay. Because this isn't it makes it even more interesting and that much more important that people show their support through action, their support for themselves through positive actions that benefit them. We got to get people that actually represents the people, that actually knows Mother Nature, that actually understand what it takes to produce an economy that is environmentally friendly and lucrative, meaning sustainable and viable, and it represents the community at large without constitutional hindrance, without having to violate the constitutional law. In fact, the Constitution is a mechanism, is a device, is a software that maintains the balance because it comes from the balance. It comes from the great priests. It comes from the Moors. And our science is based in science. I am a real representation of science. And that's why we instantly looked at people sideways and started to pump out the information prior to a pandemic. Because we were already dealing with a pandemic. Remember, the whole thing about the pandemic is a health issue. It's a health crisis. We're dealing with health. And so we're been in that we were already in the pandemic. We was already in the pandemic. The miseducation, the misinformation had already spread it way faster than COVID ever did. And in all these different countries and community, they have been co-opted and the real food was substituted with fake food. The real air was substituted with pollution air. The real water was substituted with polluted water. And before you know it, we've been consuming fluoride for decades. We've been breathing in pollutant air for decades and didn't even know it. And we've been consuming products we think is food. It's not food, and it's causing mass murder and genocide across the planet Earth. And so we just got to get back to getting involved. We got to get back to taking leadership positions. We got to get back to taking responsibility. And so we'll go on now into seeing what's going on around the world. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Make sure you visit us at www.msta13gov.com. Please support our cause to uplift fallen humanity, to continue to get out and service humanity and provide humanitarian aid and assistance right here within North America. Right here in North America, we need support like never before. We're in a tight position like everybody else, and this thing is headed right at us, full scale ahead, full speed ahead, and we're not running, we're not hiding, we're not ducking, we're coming straight at it. We're coming right at the problems, right at the conflict. We're not afraid of conflict. We understand that we must go through a conflict that we can't put into words in order to redeem our lost estate. Everything you see in North, South, Central America, Mexico, and the adjoining islands, Northeast and Southwest Africa, hey, that's our land. That's our dominions. And so we're under occupation. We know we're under occupation by a foreign power, a foreign military power. As we see now, we have economic sanctions on the Moors. On the Moors, we're descendants of the largest estate on the planet, land estate on the planet, the Moroccan Empire. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that in politics. Everybody knows that in leadership of the world. The common folks don't know that. The ones that call themselves Negro, Black, and Colored, these are actually Moors. These are actually Moroccans. And America is actually Morocco. North, South, and Central is actually Morocco, the United States of Morocco. Go back to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 and go back to the letter from George Washington on December the 1st, 1789 to the Sultan of Morocco. Go back and there's the evidence there. You can also go into the Treaty of Tripoli, Article 11. It's all there. All this information is preserved and reserved in law. We're under occupying forces, foreign military occupation currently right now with economic sanctions, and our gold and silver and commerce has been robbed in conjunction with our land, because all that stuff either comes from the land or supported by the land. And that's constitutional. Article 1, Section 10. How do you pay a debt? With gold and silver. Or if you have a credit device, it got to be redeemable in gold and silver. That's how you pay all debts, public and private, according to Article 1, Section 10 of the American Constitution for the United States. And so right there, it lets you know that we've been out the game for a very long time, consciously, educationally. And that's how you really get back into the game. The same way you got out the game is the same way you get back into a game. Get back into the game. Go back to civics, learn the law, learn what your nationality is, and that's where it starts at. Nationality determines the individual's political status, especially with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines the individual's civil status. Nationality arises from birth or naturalization. And so this is not a situation where we're being naturalized, we're being nationalized. Because we're born Muslims, we're born Moroccan, American, Muslims. Okay, so we're born, it's a matter of birthrights. It's a matter of birthrights. So your nationality arises from birth. Naturalization is when you come from one country to another country, and then you get naturalized citizenship, cloth with citizenship, the rights of citizenship based on a naturalization process. In this case, our nationality arises pursuant to our birth. We're born. You can't be black, Negro, and colored. There's no nation on earth that's black, Negro, and colored. These are the facts. There's no nation on earth. There's no black nation on earth. There's no black people of a nation on earth. This does not exist. There's no Negro nation. There's no pink nation. There's no blue nation. There is no, there's not, this doesn't exist. It does not exist historically, politically, educationally. It's just in grammar, it doesn't exist. So, we got to get out of the Wizard of Oz capacity and wake up and get back to law and order if we're talking about preserving any kind of future for ourselves. As long as we're in this capacity and let these other kinds of criminals lead us anywhere, then we are going to where we know we're going, and it's going to be ugly for everybody. So let's check out some of the global information that's going on. And it's a lot. It's a lot of good information out there. It's a lot of bad information out there. We got the conflict in Ukraine with Russia, and it's a very serious one because it's impacting us on the economic level. And it's hurting us bad. The more sanctions that we claim we putting out against Russia, the more that we get sanctioned from our sanctions, from our sanctions. So, and then we got the compromising elements. You got, Mr. Biden's son has took millions and millions and millions of dollars, and all this information is represented on his laptop that he left somewhere that they have recovered and authenticated and certified the contents of this email. And it's criminal. It's compromising. It's a absolute threat to beyond a threat to national security. It has absolutely compromised our ability to protect our national interests. And so the way it is, to be honest with you, is that we got people in position that's actually agents of our adversaries, bottom line. And so meaning that they working, they sleeping with the enemy. This is the enemy candidate. This is the person they sent in that looks like you, sounds like you, feels like you. But yet every action they've taken is against your interests from the day they stepped into the door. And that's the facts. And as you've seen, America from top to bottom has been on a major decline concerning the position in the world. And so now it's a great reform going on. It's a great reform of the geopolitical structure, where it's now you're not going to be the big guy on the block. You got multiple big guys on the block in this situation that's going to be heard, going to be respected, and there's going to be some new world order and balance. And this is what the prophet had already told us what was going to happen. He said that our brothers from the east is going to come. And all of a sudden you see a great, from military action, from economic action, all coming from out of the east. Whether it's China, Russia, now you got India, you got Pakistan, you got countries that you never even heard of. You even got Venezuela in the mix. You got the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia saying, hey, wait a minute, we want to rethink our position. And these was our greatest allies back in the Federal Reserve note, what they called the petrodollar. Well, now they're saying, hey, look, we might take yen. And then you got Russia already saying, well, as the world's one of the world's larger oil suppliers, you can only buy oil from us in rubles or gold and silver, which hurts everything that we was trying to do as far as our political world dominance because of the Federal Reserve note being a world currency. And now it's just being ripped to shreds. You got inflation, you got high gas prices, all are indicators that we have an unhealthy economy and that we're on the verge of blowing up. And that's going to be worse. You're talking about great famine, you're talking about crime, you're talking about everything that you can think of under the sun when that happens. Because you can't get food, you can't transact business. Your money is not worth anything at this point if that happens. And so, or should I say the currency, which is an inflation itself, because the gold and silver is the money, which has been taken away. And you can't do any business in that. And so the money's not redeemable. So all of this is a form of taxation and inflation from 1933. So now the world is kind of waking up from all the conflicts and saying, hey, what's going on? Well, we've been under occupation. We've been under occupation. So let's go to some news. Let me switch over here. 1 second. All right, 1 second. Let's pick up on some news here. Let's pick up on some news, see what we got, And look at my little son here. Shouts out to my brother, my young brother P. Miles Ill III. But let's get to some news. Oh, and we got a little game today as well. Let's get to some news. We'll get to that.
Draft more than 134,000 Russian citizens into the military. U.S. intelligence officials say Putin is angry and feeling misled because his own military leaders failed to inform him about key failures throughout the invasion. They were apparently too frightened to tell him. I want to go live to Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, and bring in CNN's chief international anchor, Christiana Amanpour, who's there. Christiana, I want your take on this news out of Russia. A new conscription, 134,000 new Russian troops. What does that tell you?
Well, first of all, this would be recruits, right? So they wouldn't be professionals ready to go and do anything here in Ukraine. But it might mean that what he's trying to do is rotate and regroup if in fact he has more professional troops on standby somewhere in Russia, because clearly this first phase of the military plan has not gone according to plan. And you just reported what the head of British GCHQ has said, and that, low morale, sabotaging their own vehicles.
Okay. So they was just talking about Putin. President Putin of Russia Confederation is obviously he's drafting some more of his people, and this is CNN, so you gotta take it at its face value.
Towards Kyiv on day
you can't even take it at its face value, should I say?
And I was there with Ukrainian soldiers, many of them veterans. These are not just
and CNN is known to tell fake news. Well, let's see what they're talking about here. The Hunter body, which is a major story.
Why? Well, what do I mean by exploding? First,